You're trying to paint a picture. But right before my client walked into that hospital for that surgery that day, that a man in a limousine pulls up. He gets out, he has a suit, and he walks up to Donna and he says, Donna, I have $6 million in this briefcase, and it's yours. All you have to do is just walk into the hospital. But we are going to take something from you. We are going to take away your freedom from pain. Right now, you are not in any pain. But once you wake up, pain is going to control you. It's going to own you, and you will not enjoy your life. But I have $6 million, and it's yours. Is that a fair trade? Do you accept?
This is Courtroom Stories and Tactics by RVA Trial Lawyers, hosted by Sharif Gray and Niall Abuzaki.
All right, we're back, and today we've got a good friend, Matt Nakajima from Ohio, joining us on the podcast. Matt and I met for the first time in person at Trial Lawyers University in Vegas 2 years ago. I've had the privilege and to have the opportunity to go to a lot of these trainings, just like Matt, the Trial Lawyers University, for stuff with the Jerry Spence stuff with the Keenan Edge, all this stuff, right? AAJ, everything. And what I've noticed, Matt, and I imagine you'd probably say the same thing, is that you see these same people time and time again. And the people who are getting results consistently, really doing a good job for their clients, they're always learning. They're always trying to pick the brains of those who are doing the next best thing and learn to bring back to their firms to make a difference for their clients. And Matt is, without question, one of those trial lawyers. And so, Matt, really excited to have you. Why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Sharif. Matt Nakajima with Rickers in Nakajima, located in Cincinnati, Ohio. I've been practicing 16 years now, and time definitely goes by fast.
And it goes faster and faster, doesn't it? Especially with kids, right?
Absolutely. Someone told me that the days are long, but the years are short, and nothing could be truer than that when you think about it with time with your kids.
It really is. You know, it's snowing here, or not snowing at the moment, but it did snow Friday and then yesterday. And I remember at the gym, I was talking with one of my friends. I was like, I can't believe it's snowing. It's not even like December. And then my buddy was like, no, Sharif, it is December. And I was like, it's just insanity. Well, Matt, let's get this story started. So I want to take you back a few years. You're sitting on a bench outside of a courtroom, Cincinnati, Ohio. Tell us what's going through your head.
Well, just waiting for this jury to come back. It was my first solo civil trial. And, for the first 5+ years of my career, I'd sit second and third chair and watched really, really good lawyers try cases. And at the same time, I watched my contemporaries, people I went to law school with, people my age, trying cases, getting big verdicts, and I thought this was my chance. I did everything that my mentors had shown me to do, and I tried to emulate, and I thought I did a fairly good job. The defense had come up to me earlier and asked if we wanted to engage in settlement negotiations, and I spoke with my client, and she said no. So I told him no, because I was also feeling good. And I just remember just the stress of waiting, because you just never know. But eventually we got the call, the jury had reached a verdict. And I can remember most everything about that day, from just the coldness in the room to the sweat on the palm of my hands, and just this feeling of helplessness while we waited for the jury to come in and finally read the verdict.
Matt, I can tell you, I don't know a good coping mechanism or strategy for that time period. It drives me crazy, the weight, the thoughts that go through one's head. You can't predict the helplessness, like you mentioned, the loneliness. But what I have noticed is, win or lose, when that verdict comes back, there's a decision. The body finally calms down.
Yeah.
Win or lose.
Win or lose. But that's the stress of it, because trial work is a zero-sum game. And it's one of the few things outside of, boxing or prize fighting or, sports where it's like that. There is a definitive winner and there is a definitive loser. The winner celebrates and the loser has to watch the winner celebrate. And it's a tough feeling when you're the one who comes up short.
Especially also, Matt, I could imagine if I'm putting myself in your shoes thinking, here's my chance, right? This is my chance after sitting second chair for so long to finally make that mark. The cool thing is, and I know how this story ends, but that story is a microcosm, right? I've also watched you and your career and what you guys at your firm have done for your clients for me, I've been watching for a few years now, and the results that you're getting for the people that you represent are truly exceptional. And your story about how you started and the relentlessness which comes to getting education and the training and the willingness to step into a courtroom to take the losses and then ultimately to get back in there and continue to perfect your craft, I mean, is inspiring to me, and I'm sure the many people who know you and follow you. What happened with that case? And what was it about that case that instead of you turning around and hiding under the desk, had you commit and double down to get even better?
Well, the results, I'll start with the results. The jury came back, they deliberated for hours. And I thought I'd done a really good job. I had memorized Rick Friedman's arguments down to a T, where I tried to polarize the defense expert. That, we live in a world where you can hire someone to say that smoking doesn't cause cancer, that you can pay someone enough money and they'll eat worms or like TV, like in Fear Factor, This was a pay-to-play expert who was just misleading them. When the jury came back that they found for my client, and they awarded zero, because I dropped the medical bills, it was all pain and suffering, when they came back with zero. And in Ohio, that's a mistrial. So the judge sent them back, and they came back with $95, which was the first doctor's visit that my client had. I can't even describe the feeling. I felt like a ghost. I felt like a failure. I felt like I let my client down, like I let my boss down, that maybe trial work wasn't the right thing for me at the time. And that's what you feel like when you come up short. When everybody around you is having so much success and you finally have this opportunity, you do everything to grab it and you come up short, it's demoralizing. For me, it would have been very, very easy to give up. It would have. Because I know there's a lot of lawyers that have experienced the same things that I've experienced, and it makes them gun shy about trying the case, their next case, or telling their client to say no to what looks like an unfair offer. And so you hit the nail on the coffin, that perseverance, that ability to pick yourself back up and try again, I think is really what separates good lawyers from average. And then to become great, it's where you continue to work on your trial skills. You continue to work on your litigation skills. You are watching CVN. You are going TLU. You're involved in trial school. You are involved in any seminar you can get your hands on to try to get better. That's where you become great. And then you got to practice it. But it's that ability to pick yourself up, that tenacity, that perseverance is what I learned about myself. And that kind of was the springing board for me to double down on my efforts to improve. Not just as a lawyer, but as a person. And not just as a trial lawyer, but as a litigator as well, because I looked back and I realized I lost that case in depositions.
There's a community aspect to this as well, I think. And let me be more specific. If you try cases, you will lose cases.
Absolutely.
Now, you shouldn't go out of your way, right, to lose a case. But if you are actually trying cases, difficult cases, and pushing the limits, right, you're going to come into losses. And there's a highlight reel that we have all heard about, like with social media, right? Like if you want to see someone's best day, log into social media. You'll see it. In fact, you won't just see one person's. You'll see everybody, it seems like, in your entire community or across the world is just living this glamorous, beautiful life. One of the greatest things I have found about the real trial lawyers, like the people who are truly committed to this profession and lifting each other up, is that they're willing to be open about not only their successes and what went into those successes, but the many losses and failures that ultimately, frankly, are a part of the success, right? Because we learn, if you're not, I'm a big believer, I mean, that you can't really lose a trial. As corny or cliche as that is, like at the end of the day, if you have learned something to get better, and if you've done everything you can, and if you can look yourself in the mirror and know that you gave it your all, well, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't control results. All we do is control the process, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's not really a loss, right? But I also think, like, I have gotten a lot of value when lawyers like you, or lawyers like a Joe Freed or a Nick Rowley or a Sean right? Like when these lawyers have come out and said, you know what, like I've lost. Michael Cowan, who has the Trial Lawyer Nation podcast, we had him on here a few months ago. And I remember him saying, you know, Sharif, I've lost more cases than most people have ever tried. And to be able to hear that from somebody like him, and to know that it's okay to lose, like it's not necessarily a reflection on who we are as human beings or our capacity as a trial lawyer, is free.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I can, and I don't know this, but I'm almost confident that you'd agree with me that at your firm, you all have a culture of giving everything that you all have to the cases. And ultimately the result, that's the least important thing, right?
Absolutely. I tell our newer lawyers, first and second year out, we encourage them to try cases. And I'll tell them we're not going to base, anything on your results, but the effort that you put in and your preparation, and, the chips will fall where they fall. But there's a reason you have to go try that case. In many instances, you don't have a choice. So, these are the building blocks to become great, because I've learned so much more from my losses than from any win. That's where you really learn to improve. Because if you're just winning all the time, maybe you think that you're unbeatable, that you don't always appreciate how much you have to keep improving. Yeah. Because you always got to remember, when you have that success, there's always somebody who's trying to beat you. There's always somebody who's going to the courthouse buying your transcripts, trying to figure out what you're going to say and how they can reframe it. So you got to keep working to get better and better. If that wasn't my first loss, I kept losing afterwards too. I mean, it took me years before I started to break through. But it's just, those are the stepping stones to develop that thick skin, to develop that courage to keep going.
Matt, you said something a few minutes ago that I want to ask you to expand on. You also mentioned your growth kind of as just a human being after that loss and over the years. And what I heard you in some kind of allude to is that your growth as a trial lawyer and your growth as a human being in some ways kind of went on parallel tracks, like it's one and the same. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. As you develop as a trial lawyer, I think you give a little part of you to every case. It's I don't know how to be great at this job if I don't put myself in my client's shoes, if I don't obsess over them, if their problems don't become mine. It's the only thing I know. And that eats away with you. So anytime someone is minimizing the severity of your client's injuries or calling into question their integrity, I take that personal. The more experiences you have with your client, the easier it is to tell their story. It doesn't even become a story. It becomes second nature to you. So part of becoming a better trial lawyer for me, and just a better litigator as a whole, and how to better evaluate cases, is I had to start getting to know my clients, truly getting to know my clients. And any case we've had success on, I've broken bread with them. They've been to my house. We've gone out to dinner together. They're not just coming to my office and sitting behind some nice desk and I'm in a suit and tie. It is us spending real time together as ordinary people and truly getting to know them, getting to know their kids, getting to know their mannerisms. There are so many things you can pick up, especially like when you go to a client's house. Also, through those experiences, it's helped me better relate to similar experiences in my life. When my wife got cancer or when my dad died, it changes your perspective and you better appreciate what loss really is. To have something taken from you that you're never going to get back, to have to live with that fear of wondering, are you going to be a single parent because your spouse isn't going to live? As you go through more life experiences, I feel like it helps you better relate to your client and to be not just a better person, but a better advocate for them.
I believe our job, I say this often, and it makes no sense. So I'm sure most people are like, Sharif, what the heck are you saying? But I say, our job has nothing to do with money, but at the same time has everything to do with money. And again, I recognize our listeners are probably like, oh, Sharif's about to get on a soapbox and he's making no sense again. But you're listening, probably for Matt, not for me. But anyways, but what I think about that, Matt, is like, we're not saying give our client money. We're asking them to recognize the value of what was taken from their health and their quality of life.
Exactly.
It's kind of like how the criminal defense attorney can always stand up and say, you know what, I don't care what you think about my client, but I hope you do care about what that Constitution says, right? And I think the same can and should be said for what we do. It's human life has value. It has real value. And when we're willing to put ourselves in the shoes of our clients and get to actually appreciate and understand what this incident did to them and how it's impacted their life, and not just them, like what's been the collateral consequence? Guy can't move as well as he used to. Well, how has that impacted his relationship with his wife? How has that impacted his relationship with his kids? And right. And so I'm a big believer, Matt, that we're advocates for the value of human life, that these things are human and they have value. And if we ourselves aren't able to appreciate that, then how can we not advocate for that to the best of our ability? And that means taking kind of like having the courage to do what you did in that first jury trial solo, right? I mean, to be willing, even then, Matt, for you to say, you know what, we're not claiming medicals. We're not talking about bills because this case isn't about bills, right? I mean, it takes some balls to do that. But also, I think at the same time, it's also what makes this job just so profoundly worthwhile, and why I think so many of us find so much meaning.
Absolutely. I think that we're not only the front lines against corporate greed and injustice, fighting that fight, trying to stand that line, but we are in many respects the advocates for human values versus corporate values. Anytime we have an opportunity, whether it be social media, in front of a jury, in front of a podcast, or in front of local bar associations or the plaintiffs' lawyers, that's what I think we need to advocate, because that's really what we're doing. We are expanding on and making people acknowledge and recognize human values. We live in a world, in a capitalist society, and I'm not going to get on my soapbox, but so many people have a me mentality, and so many people can go through and experience or see the most extreme suffering, as long as it's not them who's going through the suffering. But can you make it relatable? Can you make it real to them to where they can put themselves in your client's shoes? They can't go in the room, but you can deliver it in a manner that resonates with their human values.
Matt, what are some of the things that you would recommend? So for the young lawyer who wants to become a trial lawyer, having done all the training you've done and had all the experience that you've had, what do you tell that lawyer to do? Like, if you had to give him a roadmap, I mean, obviously there's no perfect path, but if you had to say, if I could go back and be in your shoes right now, knowing what I know now, what trainings are you telling them to go to? What books are you telling them to read?
I would tell them invest in themselves. So everyone's going to have a job where they're going to have to move cases. When you start out, you're going to be helping other lawyers move their cases. And then you're going to have your own cases over time. And you're going to have to manage, pre-suit and then in litigation. But you want to be a trial lawyer, you have to also focus on your trial skills. That means reading books and studying. Advanced Deposition Practices by Philip Miller. I think it's a game changer. They created the Miller Mousetrap. I used to have a DVD player in my car. Right. Exactly. And I would listen to it over and over and over again. I think Rules of the Road, Keith Mitnick, books, Don't Eat the Bruises, There's also Mike Malone's, like Mike Malone in Rick Friedman books on case framing, especially to develop rules. I think it's critical. I think if you're going to start going to try cases and you don't know exactly where to start, a formulaic approach such as ball on damages is a great start if you don't know where else to go. And then taking the time to invest in getting to know good trial lawyers, getting copies of their trial transcripts and studying them, going and watching them live, whether it be on CVN or going to the courthouse and asking to buy the videos of their trial, because so much of what you say is nonverbal. Seeing it on video, the way they phrase it, the way they're making the eye contact, the way they're creating space and recreating the crash in real time. You're not going to get that from just reading the transcript. You have to watch it, because these great lawyers, everything they do is deliberate. Even when they're acting like, oh, shucks, I don't know what I'm going to say, that was a deliberate pause. When they glanced at that piece of paper, when they walked across that courtroom, everything from beginning to end was deliberate. They practiced it more times than most people ever practice, given opening at all. So what I would do is I'd read those books, and then you got to practice. You really have to practice, and then you have to get the reps in. I would go around if you really want to be a trial lawyer, because you're going to have to make a commitment to do this. You're going to have to take your free time when your friends go watch these ball games, when people want to go out and have drinks. You got to go home and you got to invest the time and energy. But then I would start going around to other lawyers and asking them, do they have any cases that need to be tried? And you would be shocked to see how many people do. They really do. And if you can incentivize them and say, hey, you have a $15,000 offer on this. I'll tell you what, I'll go try this case. You owe me nothing. I won't even take a fee if I don't beat the offer. And then if I beat the offer, then we can split it. We can find something equitable. That's what I would do. I would start seeking out cases to go try. And they're not going to be the best cases. They're not. And you have to remember, though, that you're getting reps in, because you will lose those cases. The easiest cases to go try, as far as to get people to give them to you, are those, slip and falls, the no visible property damage cases, the Cairo only cases. And if I can encourage people to start developing their trial skills, or I would tell you to start, if you get a case like this, is to try a UM or a UIM case, because that's the closest thing you will have to an equal playing field. And what I mean by that is, there's a lot of negative connotations about plaintiffs' lawyers and the people who bring injury lawsuits, especially when you're suing an everyday person who looks like a grandma who just did it, made a mistake. But the playing field is much more even when you have an insurance company on the other side. And I think those are the best cases for young lawyers to go try and to develop confidence. Slip and falls in particular, because in most states, open and obvious can be a real bar to recovery. Those are cases where you can have very significant injuries and truly advocate for big damages on those human losses and have a chance of hitting a home run. The hardest cases, those Kairos. But definitely getting the reps in dedicating yourself to being this. It's very easy to say, I want to be a trial lawyer. It's much harder to go do it.
Matt, what are the trainings you're telling people to go to?
You can get a membership to CVN pretty inexpensively. There's always coupon codes going on for most of the big focus groups. Trial School, Trial Lawyer University will often run them, especially around TLU.
Yeah, well, Trial School is free, right?
Yeah. Get on Trial School, watch what people are doing from a trial perspective, watching TLU to see the whys behind what they were doing. So what CVN will give you is it will show you what they did at trial, okay? But you don't always know the why behind why they framed the case like they did, or why they started out introducing this layer of evidence first before introducing what you thought was their strongest piece of evidence. You get in on Trial School or TLU, then you can often see the interview of that lawyer. And so they can break down, after they ran the focus groups, if they framed it this way, the success rate went up. If they increase the ask to this, the win rate goes up. And you start to learn the whys. You start to learn the whys behind why they themed it, why they framed it a case about a broken promise, as opposed to profits over safety. Okay? You just got to really immerse yourself in that. Because if you really start studying things, most of the guys at the top and women are doing something similar. They really are. The words are matching it. Their delivery may be slightly different, but they're doing the same things. If you get online and you go to CBN, you will see Nick Rowley, you'll see Brian Panish, you'll see Sean Claggett. You know, how many times do they close with some narrative about a painting or a briefcase where they use the bird in the hand? You know, and almost all of that can be traced back to Jerry Spence and Mo Levine.
Right.
You know, so really taking your time to study it and figure out how to make it right for you. So, for example, Nick Rowley may do the painting to describe if paint was a price tag. You know, if it was a material object, we know what it was worth. And then transpose the value of a painting, and you say, well, why would this painting be worth so much? Because it was unique. It was one of a kind. It was made by a master artist. And then you transpose that to your client. Well, my client was unique. My client's life, her free life without pain, was irreplaceable to her. You know, that's one spin on it. Whereas Sean Claggett will get on there and talk about, well, what if the Louvre caught on fire and a painting's about to burn up, and the director of the Louvre runs out to the fire marshal and says, hey, this masterpiece painting, you know, this Van Gogh, this one of a kind, it's catching fire. I need you to go get it. And the fire marshal runs in there and he can get the painting, but he sees a little girl. Guess which one he grabs? He brought the little girl, because the value of the painting compared to someone's quality of life, that human life, that child's life, that's what's really irreplaceable, not those material things. So they're all doing the same spins, but definitely getting on there and studying what they're doing and then going to work on it, okay? And you could do it with TLU's boot camp. Dan does that. You could go out and go to the ranch and get on your feet that way. Nick Rowley runs seminars regularly. You know, Sean Claggett, I've never seen him not wanting to help somebody if he has time. You can go out there and he'll work with you and putting together your opening, your close. You know, but you have to be proactive. You have to want to do these things. And if you don't have the money to spend on that, that's okay. Get a group of friends together and practice. You know, one thing that I do that's very inexpensive is I have a deposition transcript company, a court reporting company. And anytime I'm in a new city, I'll reach out to them and I'll ask them, I want to run a focus group, or I want to practice my voir dire. Can you record it and then get out there and get me 10 to 15 jurors? Buy them lunch. And that's what I'll do. I've been running my own focus group since 2010 for about $1,200. I'll get a local court reporter to record it, and I will get a room full of people that do not know me, and I will practice. Now, before you do that, you're going to practice on your own a lot, but that way you're going to just get those reps in real time. That's where I recommend people doing it. It doesn't have to be really expensive, or you can just get a group of people who will be willing to practice regularly and just working on your presentation skills.
There's so much opportunity out there, right? Sometimes I even find it can be somewhat overwhelming, Matt. But the cool thing is it's there. Like there's no excuse now. If you are motivated and want to improve, it's there. And I'll share a story. When you mentioned if money is an issue, we'll get some of these people that you mentioned. I mean, if money is an issue, they will find a way for you. I remember when I first got into personal injury work, was early 2000 or 2021. I remember coming across Trial Lawyers University, and I was like, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. I mean, to Dan's credit, the website is badass. It's a great event too, right? But the website's awesome. It looks like a great time, great education. And I was like, I need to go to this. And I was a brand new personal injury lawyer. I'd done a lot of criminal work beforehand. And I saw a scholarship option that Sean Claggett had put on. And I applied. Sean shot me an email. We jumped on a call, and he's the one who paid for my ticket to come to Trial Lawyers University in Vegas. This was the one, not where you and I met, but the one before that. And I mean, that act of kindness, that generosity, is who Sean Claggett is, and is who a lot of trial lawyers are. And so, like, I've always found, like, if money is not the issue, right? If there's a will, there's a way, and it's a matter of making the time and doing the work. What, Matt, have you done on a personal growth side over the years to help you also improve, not just as a trial lawyer, but also as a human being? And I can share, at least from my angle, like, becoming a parent made a big difference, and watching my kids grow up as fast as they've grown up, and like starting to just that work of prioritizing them over other things, and starting to gain more appreciation for what are the things that really matter, I think not only has helped me become a better person, hopefully a better father and husband, but in doing so has also helped me better understand the human condition, right? And better understand what our clients experience in a way that I can talk about these human values. At least I hope I can talk about them with some sincerity.
Yeah. Definitely the relationship with your kids or losing parents or loved ones. There's never an easy time to lose a parent. I feel like I've grown, and it definitely helps me appreciate the non-monetary parts of your life, because it is so true. I mean, how we value things in life. Well, when you take a trip to Disney, at the end of the day, when you look back in it 5-10 years from now, it's not how much it cost me to stay at Epcot and to go to Epcot and to pay the $20 for the corn dogs. It's when you look back, it's what was the smile on my daughter's face worth for the first time that she ever met her favorite princess. What is it worth to see her in those memories? We live our life based on, past experiences, past memories. That's what life's about. That's all you have, is that love, that support, and those memories of those happier times. And that's helped a lot. I will tell you one thing that I've really focused on, and I don't always do as great a job. I mean, you're in a lot better shape than me, but taking time for yourself. In our profession, so many things revolve around going to happy hours and indulging in the wrong things. Plates full of dessert and pizzas and fried chicken, and taking the time to reinvest in your health is not just recommended for your physical appearance, but for your mental health. I notice when I don't work out regularly, I notice when I'm not eating right, that my mood changes and that I am more irritable. And so much of what I do is to try to put myself in the best positions of not just being a good father or a good trial lawyer, but just being a good human being, more patient. And so I've really started to work on eating better, working out more, not drinking alcohol. I mean, I'm not a teetotaler, but at the same time, I realized you have a finite amount of time in your life. And for me to achieve the things I want to do, I need to optimize the quality of my life by focusing on that.
And I've learned I also rarely drink alcohol, and it's like you. I mean, if it's a social function, sure, but I've found that it just doesn't serve me, right? Like it's more of a hindrance. I get crappy sleep.
Exactly.
I don't recover as well as I used to, I guess. But no, it's the whole. I mean, if you're going to do this work the right way, right? Like, it's not 9 to 5. And I'm not saying that means you have to work a million hours, but like, it's the whole body. It's the whole, I mean, we are advocates for the human experience, right? And so if we're not treating ourselves well and taking the time to make ourselves a priority, then we're not going to be in the best shape to be able to make sure our clients are getting the justice that they deserve.
Yeah. And we talk about that. We talk about quality of life.
Right.
And we put that value as a premium when we're advocating for our clients. We should also be doing that for ourselves by doubling down time with our family and doubling down our own health.
That's right.
Prioritize.
For sure. I mean, it's funny, like, I've found, at least through therapy, that like, I'm great when it comes to advocating for somebody else, but when it comes for myself, it's a struggle. But it's certainly a work in progress for me. But one of the cool things about this work, Matt, is I've found that as you develop as a person, you become a better trial lawyer. As you develop as a better trial lawyer, you become a better person. So it's really, really cool. Really cool. Well, Matt, I remember reaching out to you, might have been a year or two ago, and you had taught a course at TLU or a breakout session on the ask, right? The art of the ask or the damages analogies. And I still have everything you sent me, some of the Jerry Spence stuff. And I also have a clip of you demonstrating the briefcase, which is a very common one. And it's, I think, frankly, one of the most effective analogies when it comes to trying to assist a jury with understanding the value of a case. Would you be open to sharing with us what the briefcase analogy is and how it goes?
Sure, sure. I will tell you that comparing your client's suffering in value to material objects such as a painting or, a football contract or anything like that, or the briefcase, I am seeing more and more motions to shut people down
Right.
before they even walk in the courtroom. So you need to have multiple ways to close in a damage model that can arm your jurors when they go back there. But a briefcase would be fairly simple. Normally what I would do whenever I go into closing, if I'm allowed, I'm going to give the jury multiple damage models. So if I'm in a jurisdiction that allows it, I will give a per diem model. I never run from my number. I might not always give my number in voir dire or opening, but if it's going to be tens of millions of dollars, I will say tens of millions of dollars. If I really feel like we've made a connection, sometimes I will just give them the number I'm asking for at the end of opening, especially if we've had a good opportunity to get to know each other and I feel comfortable in voir dire. But in closing, I will do a per diem argument, and I will always try to match up the jury instructions with the damages that are allowed in that jurisdiction. And I'll sometimes just draw a line and put someone's name. You heard this witness. Boom, boom. Talked about inconvenience. Talked about emotional distress. Talked about inability to perform usual activities, and I will match it up. So then I'll do a per diem, and then I will go into if pain was a price tag or if someone's quality of life was a material object, we know what it was worth. And then I would go into the briefcase as a third way. And I would start and say, I think what's been taken from my client is worth at least $6 million. You could award more, you could award less. And whatever you decide, I'll respect. But I think $6 million is a reasonable number. And many of you may be asking, how did I come up with that number? So I'm going to tell you. I want you to assume for a moment, and you're trying to paint a picture, that right before my client walked into that hospital for that surgery that day, that a man in a limousine pulls up. He gets out, he has a suit, and he walks up to Donna, and he says, Donna, I have $6 million in this briefcase, and it's yours. And Donna would probably look at him and say, is there a candy camera? What's going on? Is this a joke? And this man in the briefcase would say, no, Donna, it's not a joke. $6 million, it's yours. You can do anything you want with it. And Donna would probably say, well, what's the catch? And the man would say, no catch. It's your money. All you have to do is just walk into the hospital. But we are going to take something from you. See, the moment you walk into the hospital, you're going to go under general anesthesia and you're going to go in for a surgery. And during that surgery, the doctor is going to negligently sever your ureter and your bladder. You're going to wake up in tremendous pain, Donna. You're going to realize that your body is now filled with liquids because there is nowhere for the urine in your body to go. So now it's pooling your pelvis. You're going to have infection after infection after infection. You're going to have surgery after surgery after surgery to try to repair your bladder and your severed ureter. But you will never get that relief. And you are going to be in diapers. You're going to urinate on yourself. You're not going to be able to live your life. We're going to take away your quality of life. And not just right now, but for the next 40 years of your life. And right now, Donna, you have a free life. You can go to football games. You can go out skiing with your fiance. You can go to sporting events. You can go to concerts. And we're going to take that away from you as well. And lastly, we are going to take away your freedom. Your freedom from pain. Right now, you are not in any pain. But once you wake up, not just for the next 6 months, but for the next 40 years of your life, pain is going to control you. It's going to own you. And you will not enjoy your life. But I have $6 million, and it's yours. Is that a fair trade? Do you accept? And Donna isn't really a money person. She's never had money. She didn't live her life to have it, but she did have her freedom from pain, and she did have her life, her free life, the life that she wanted to live. And she would look that man in the eye and say, no, that's not a fair trade. Not for my life, not for my quality of life, and not for my freedom from pain. And that is why your verdict should be at least $6 million. And that's it in a nutshell. I might not have delivered it just right, but the key point here, and what I see a lot of people make, is it's very important if you want it to pass judicial appellate issues, is when you're delivering that, you say your client's name enough to make it clear this is a conversation that you are having with the man in the briefcase and your client. All right? But you then want to speak to the jury, and when you're looking at the jury and delivering it and you're micro-connecting, you're talking about you, and we're going to take this from you. We're going to take that from you, okay? So it helps create a first-person narrative that they can envision themselves. You're not golden ruling them, but it is definitely making them try to put themselves in your client's shoes, whether they want to or not, just by the delivery of your story.
That's right.
It's also very, very important that you relate everything back to the injuries in this case. Okay? But I find that to be an effective delivery method to help people better appreciate what your client went through and why your number is the reasonable number.
And I know people have used that analogy to great success because it forces the lawyer, given that analogy, that to, like, really, as you did here a minute ago, but talk about the things that this client has lost and was taken from them at no fault of their own, right? Like, it's not like they didn't have that choice.
Yeah. Right.
The 6 million, I mean, right? The briefcase was thrust upon them.
Mm-hmm. But they didn't have that choice, and that's why, exactly. I left that part out. And you can go the different ways with it. You'll see some people do the want ads, same analogy. You will see, for example, Keith Mitnick will do the experiment, and then you'll see, like Rex Paris, he will do the lottery ticket.
I love the lottery ticket. I've done that a few times. I love it.
It's the same frame as far as storytelling, but just a different vehicle in which you're delivering it.
Right. And the lottery ticket is beautiful if you can do it in rebuttal.
Yes.
Right? Like, so real quick, just for the listeners, they just heard us get really excited about the lottery ticket, and they're like, what the hell are these guys talking about? Well, it's like, the short version is, you say, the defense is saying this is a lottery ticket, this is the money grab. Well, here's the ticket. I got it right here. $3 million, or whatever the number is, right?
Yeah.
Get it. Mr. Bob Smith, this is your ticket. You want it? But there's a caveat, right? And it's the same thing you explained with the briefcase.
Exactly.
It comes with, you can never do this again. You're going to be in this much pain. You don't have the freedom to do this, right? And so what you're doing is you're trying to erode this from the jury, thinking this is a windfall. You know, there's a really good visual that I forgot where I got it from. I remember, I think I saw it on LinkedIn. I think Jessica Brylo used it, and I love it. But it's this visual, I think it was a video, which I've now turned it into a PowerPoint visual, which shows the individual dropping levels. So like individual standing on the ground, level, even ground, and then as a result of the incident, drops a level. As a result of weeks in the hospital, another level. Loss of job, another level. Loss of autonomy, another level, right? Next 25 years, another level. And then by the end of it, you see that we're not trying to give this person a net positive. We're just trying to get the person back to where they were before the negligence, right? And that I think could be very effective, because one of the things I think we run into all the time, Matt, is a lot of times I think we walk into the courtroom already a little bit behind, in the sense that, hey, this case should have settled, right? If I'm a juror, why are they here? Are these just the greedy billboard lawyers, right? And so anything we can do to really explain, like, human value is worth something.
Yeah.
Human life is
Absolutely.
priceless, right?
And you got to find a way to frame it in a way that makes sense to your jurors. So in voir dire, you might have multiple different ways to deliver damage models. And in so many cases, we try to tell them to kind of cut off that windfall argument. We're not asking to necessarily put a value on their pain, because that's difficult. But we're asking you to put a value on the price of freedom from that. What would you give not to have to suffer this?
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. I heard Joe Freed talk about that at the event we had, and it was brilliant in the sense he said, listen, it doesn't matter if you're whatever the color of your skin is, whatever your religion is, whatever side of the political spectrum you fall, at the end of the day, we all value some freedom, autonomy, the ability to make decisions in our lives, right? And to be able to make that part of your case, I think, can be incredibly powerful.
You see a lot of lawyers, and I think a lot of it's the guys that I see doing it are all coming from Batula to Jerry Spence. But every case that they make it is a constitutional case. It is a human liberties case. We all have the right to freedom and the pursuit of happiness. And what if that was taken away? And they really try to reframe that. And I don't know if it's because they want to connect with conservative jurors, but every case is a civil rights case, the way they talk about what was taken in the way of freedoms and liberties.
Well, but it's true, right? I mean, like, that's it. I mean, like, it's true. If you really believe it, like, it's true. And in a perfect world, sure. Would we love to be able to get a result that includes a time machine that we can put our client in and take it so this never happened? Yeah, of course, but that's not possible. So what's the next best thing we can do is try and get them a result that at least recognizes what they've lost and at least sets them up so they can live the second best life after this incident, right? And so, Matt, this has been freaking awesome. So thank you for being on the podcast. I've got one more question.
Sure.
So, Matt, if you could go back to when you first started your career and give yourself some words of wisdom, some advice, what would you tell yourself?
To be patient. Not everybody's career trajectory starts the same way. It's not always going to be linear. Be patient and enjoy the moment and enjoy those experiences, because the value of the journey is what's so incredible. And just because things don't appear to be going the way you want it at one time in your life doesn't mean that those experiences aren't going to shape you and make those successes, when they do come, even more rewarding. I think we all have, as you start to kind of bring it back full circle, everybody around you's based on social media living their absolute best life and having all this great success. Don't always get so caught up in the noise. You have to love what you have, love yours, love the relationships you have, love where you are in life, because it's yours. And there's no life better than yours. You just have to make the most of it and be appreciative of what you have and be patient for when your opportunities arise, because they will arise.
Matt, it's been a true privilege to have you, man. So thank you. Yeah, this has been awesome. I'm really glad we were able to set this up. And I'm sure I'll see you at a training here soon. I know we'll be going to the Mitnick's thing in Florida. I think it's in May.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Keith Mitnick. Well, as you are as well. I mean, that guy, talk about somebody who lives in the courtroom and is the first to be willing to share to make everybody better. I mean, that guy's incredible. And then also, we'll be at TLU, I'm sure, in June. So I'm sure I'll see you here soon. And considering
Absolutely.
how time flies, it will feel like tomorrow at some point.
Well, keep doing the great work. I really appreciate folks like you putting on these seminars. I wish I could have been just a fly on the wall. You're giving back to your community. You're making local lawyers better. And that's a pretty amazing thing. They didn't have to go to LA or Las Vegas to go see the best of the best, help them with their craft. You did it right back home in Virginia. So just keep doing those things. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. And I'm proud of you for all you're doing. You've come a long way very, very quickly. I mean, it may not seem like that, but you know, you got your name on the door now, and I'm really proud of you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks for listening to Courtroom Stories and Tactics by RVA Trial Lawyers, hosted by Sharif Gray and Niall Abuzaki. Please subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or any major podcast platform. Together, we're building a tribe of trial lawyers to remind the world what human life is truly worth, one verdict at a time.